In a startling claim published in the forthcoming book, Bangladesh's former Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal has accused the army chief Waqaruzzaman of orchestrating a coup against Sheikh Hasina and acting as an agent for the United States Central Intelligence Agency. Bangladesh's former Home Minister revealed that it was a perfect CIA plot hatched over a long period of time to overthrow Sheikh Hasina. We did not know the CIA had Waqar in its pocket. We did not know that General Waqaruzzaman was on their payroll. Our primary defense intelligence agency, the Directorate General of Forces Intelligence of Bangladesh, as well as Bangladesh's principal civilian intelligence agency, the National Security Intelligence, did not warn the Prime Minister that Waqar had decided to betray her. Maybe their top bosses were also involved in this plot. How won't they be? After all, the army chief himself was a principal plotter. When countered with what interest it serves for the United States to engage the CIA and indulge in a regime change as far as Bangladesh, well, the former Home Minister mentions Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping. He says that with too many powerful heads of state in South Asia, Modi, Xi, Hasina, how would the CIA operate if such strong leaders rule the subcontinent? American interests are best served with weaker governments, but there was a more immediate reason: St. Martin's Island. Now, St. Martin's Island is about 9 kilometers south of Teknaf and 8 kilometers from Myanmar. It occupies a strategic spot in the Bay of Bengal and now very crucial amid China's growing influence in the Indian Ocean and also in Myanmar. In fact, Sheikh Hasina, before losing power in a press conference, alleged that if she hands over the island to the Americans, she can stay on without any problems. Let's go across to Kulbir Krishanji, former IPS officer and ex-member of the NSAB. Dr. Anand Ranganathan joins us, and we are hopeful that Saddam Hussain, president of Bangladesh Students' League, will be, and also the Gano Adhikar Parishad, will be able to join us too. Kulbir Krishanji, are you surprised by this claim? Many are startled by it. But the St. Martin aspect we've heard, but Waqaruzzaman, who's supposed to be indirectly related to Sheikh Hasina, betraying her.
Thank you for having me here. I'm not surprised, but I do not believe the veracity of this claim.
Okay.
The fact is that the US deep state was definitely interested in having a regime change, and a lot of players, particularly the army and General Waqaruzzaman, were crucial for the regime change. But if you see his subsequent conduct, when the US and Muhammad Yunus were very keen to have a humanitarian corridor, so-called humanitarian corridor, going from Bangladesh into Rakhine state, it was he who stood firm and said, nothing doing, we are not going to get into a fight with the Arakan army, which is the de facto ruler of Rakhine state. The background is that the Bangladesh army has been allegedly raising Rohingya militant organizations like Rohingya Liberation Organization, Rohingya Solidarity Organization, ALSA, etc. They've been training them, providing them weapons with the hope that one day they will go back and reclaim their homeland in Rakhine state. Their main enemy is the Arakan army. Now, the US plan was to use the Arakan army against the Tatmadaw, to which the NSA, Khalilur Rahman, was also very keen.
Right.
But it was General Waqaruzzaman who stood firm and said nothing doing. In fact, he called a general body meeting of all the officers. Nearly 1,200 officers in Dhaka were called, and they unanimously said nothing doing. We are not going to get into this misadventure. It involves foreign powers. So the fact is that yes, if you compare the position in Nepal, where the army didn't intervene, or Sri Lanka, where the army didn't intervene, it is in Bangladesh the army did intervene, but did not take direct control.
Right.
So to that extent, the interior minister saying that yes, he's a CIA agent makes sense. But I feel that he's not a CIA agent. He's acting, keeping all his bases covered. so that he can act in a manner which helps him and the Bangladesh army in future.
Well, there are many thoughts for it, but
One more
Wakar
point.
was also
When-
frustrated in between.
yeah.
My memory serves me right that within 2-3 months of Mohammad Yunus coming in, he was very upset, and he had also aired certain things that there are people who are trying to derail democracy, and I will not allow that. And I can see, and there was also a coup attempt against him. There was an attempt to try and bump him off, also, which he survived because he was wise enough that this would not happen. So those aspects also remain.
Very true. But also, if you remember that he was the one who put pressure on Muhammad Yunus as a counterploy that you hold elections by December 2025. And he got the support of the BNP
Right.
and also the Jamaat-e-Islami to some extent. So because of which Muhammad Yunus had to back out to and was not able to fulfill the American so-called plans to the extent they wanted to.
So you believe that this is a little far-fetched, but there are those who believe that he should have backed Sheikh Hasina and he should have alerted her about this possible coup that could happen. Now, how did the army chief backstab Hasina? That's another point. Dr. Ranganathan, coming to you after just this small explainer. The former Bangladesh army chief revealed that Wakar tied up with the fundamentalist forces in Bangladesh to bring Hasina down. Now, the Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh had brought all radical forces together before this. In fact, some ISI-trained men had infiltrated into the ranks of the Jamaat, and they were instrumental in killing policemen in late June. In fact, the Bangladesh army chief, a relative of or indirect relative of Sheikh Hasina, told Khan that the army will handle the situation in the presence of the Prime Minister even after being informed about the ISI intrusion. Now, just a day ahead of the time when she would be forced to leave, there was a meeting at her residence to assess the ground situation regarding threats of agitators storming into the Gonobhavan, attended by top echelons of the government and the security apparatus of Bangladesh. The Bangladesh Home Minister had proposed that his policemen would man Gonobhavan. Wakar had said that there was no need for that. Also, he would ensure that the army would not allow anybody near the Prime Minister's residence. Sheikh Hasina had trusted Wakar that evening. The former Home Minister says, "We know what happened the next day." And that's there captured on television, Dr. Ranganathan. So is there merit in this allegation that perhaps what was expected from the Bangladesh army chief did not actually turn around, and Sheikh Hasina bet on the wrong person or trusted the wrong person?
Good evening, Anand, and good evening to my fellow panelists. I speak here purely as a layman and someone who's trying to still understand what's going on in Bangladesh. But I'll say this, for someone who orchestrated and took part in a regime change, for someone who actually, you can say, perpetrated a near quasi coup to take over the reins, this is classic brinksmanship and playing poker to enter into the territory of bluff making so as to deny a couple of things to give the impression that, look, we are not puppets of America. This is exactly what you would do if you were to take part and perpetrate a regime change, not listen to the Americans or to the fundamentalist forces a couple of occasions, but do the big thing for them. So may I humbly disagree with the previous panelist saying that, look, Wakar is no longer a puppet or never was a puppet of the Americans because he's denied this corridor. No, I mean, everything is going exactly according to plan. And it's not just you and me saying this that gives credence to the fact that he was basically a CIA man. It's the former Home Minister. Now, you could say that, yes, he was also in the cabinet of Sheikh Hasina and therefore he would be parroting her lines. But be that as it may, when a Home Minister or a former Home Minister says such things with bona fide facts as far as protecting the Gonobhavan is concerned, at least that part of it, then you do give credence to whatever he's saying. Now, the second part is, as is what concerns me as an Indian, what are we doing? Now, Anand, two things are absolutely certain. One, that yes, of course, it was a regime change. Of course, deep state, whether it was involved or not, America was certainly involved. Now, why do they want an unstable, volatile region? I don't need to go into the the politics of it. It's been going on for 60 years since they orchestrated a regime change in Cuba with a mechanized cat, if you know. That's what the CIA is up to in all the various places, 50, 60 countries. What do we have to take care about? The fact of the matter is, from Afghanistan to now Bangladesh, from north to the south, we are surrounded by unstable regimes. Either they are unstable fundamentally or through religious reasons, or in the case of Sri Lanka or other countries, Nepal, economically. What do we do about it? As far as Nepal and Sri Lanka are concerned, we don't need to worry too much about it because we don't have a porous border where people are infiltrating in and out. As far as Bangladesh is concerned, I'm afraid the water has reached above the neck, Anand, and you know it as much as I do. We are doing precious little to actually help, what can I say, to take over the situation when we have almost 500 odd kilometers still unfenced, when we have 500 odd kilometers of border districts that are Muslim majority right now and prone to infiltration. We have to step up our game. So it doesn't matter from Afghanistan to Pakistan to Bangladesh what regimes are. Of course, they are puppet regimes. But the fact of the matter is, what does India do next?
Right, and not just what does India do next. If they are supposed to be puppet regimes, then we might as well puppet them rather than some third party halfway around the world. And that is what we have to be ruthless with respect to our statecraft and protecting our interests. Kulbir Krishanji, quick word before we get a move on and talk to the other side. Look at our western borders and look at what's happening in Pakistan.
Well, I agree with you that it's a very serious situation and we have to protect our interests. But obviously, we can't do it in a TV discussion. Whatever has to be done behind the scenes. And I'm sure the people, the powers that be, are fully aware of the situation in Bangladesh and are taking counter steps. We should leave it at that. That's my personal opinion. There's no need for speculation. We have a lot of levers and we should use all of them so that we protect our interests, especially demographic change, which is a fact of life.
True. It's just that the patience that is expected is quite telling, and that is on the wane with respect to what's happening all around, and especially with elections in some of these key states. And if our demography is going to be influenced, and with that our democratic process is going to be influenced against the favor of the core indigenous people of Bharat or Bharatiya citizens, then we have a problem there, and that needs to be addressed. But we'll pause it right there as far as Bangladesh is concerned. Donald Trump, during